Hey guys, welcome back to the Business of Art. Someone asked me to do a video on naming your business and how to come up with a name for your business. So I thought this was kind of a great question. And full disclosure, I'm just going to give you my point of view and what I have learned from my studying of this subject and SEO and all that kind of stuff. I'm just going to tell you what I have learned and what I would suggest. There are going to be other experts or whoever that will probably suggest something totally different. So just do what makes sense to you. So I'm just going to tell you what I've learned. First of all, obviously you want a name that you're happy with and you're going to stick with for a very long time. And you're going to probably want something catchy and cute and easy to remember. Before all of that even, you have to think of SEO. And just a quick what is SEO again? It's search engine optimization. It's how searchable something will be. And if you are serious about making a business out of something, you want it to be as searchable as humanly possible. So I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the 90s, there's a band Live. They're still pretty popular, but think of how not searchable they are at this point. If you were to search Live band on Google, you're going to probably come up with like a million other, like a bunch of live shows of bands, and stuff like that. A lot of things before you even come up with their name. So that name was an amazing name at the time, but later on for searchability, it's not that great. So you're going to want to think of that. What will people be able to easily search that will be able to find you, and what can you brand? Now, mind you, of course, you have, let's say a company like Lyft, L-Y-F-T. That's something they had to spend tons and tons of money to market, to make that a name that everyone would think with. And I'm sure for the first quite a while, everyone was searching L-I-F-T to try to find them and not finding them. As artists, we generally don't have that amount of a marketing budget, so we have to be a little bit smarter. So try not to think of something that will be so esoteric that people won't be able to find it, and also not something too basic that people will find other things when searching for it, such as the name Live. And then the other thing I always look for first is the domain name available? Because you're going to want to get that. Whether you set up a website or not, doesn't really matter. You're going to want the domain name. You're going to want to be able to get the name on Facebook and Instagram, and wherever you are, it's best if you can have your name wherever you go. That's an important part of branding, once again, without spending a bunch of money. Take Mixed Media Girl, for example. I went over many names and ended up landing on that one because it was, first of all, it's cute, it's catchy, it's easy to remember, and it's also easy to search. I do mixed media. So people searching for anything mixed media, my name is going to go right into that list of things that are going to pop up. Also, my domain name was available. I did not look at the time to see if the Facebook name and the Instagram name and everything were available, and unfortunately they were not. So on those, it's Mix Media Girl, which does cause me trouble. Luckily, I have grown so large that even people can find me pretty easily. But until then, you have to think with the best way for people to find you. And let's say Grunge Artist Apparel, for instance, the name really communicates what we're doing. It's also easily searchable, and it's the domain name was available. Everything was available, actually, which was awesome. And if you it's very SEO friendly. People can so easily find us now. We've only been a month. We've only had the company for a month, and already if you search several of our keywords, we pop up right to the top because everything is branded so well, and it's easily searchable. All right, so definitely keep that in mind. I'd say that's probably your first thing to think with. You're gonna want that domain name, and you need something that's easy to remember and it's easily searchable. After that, of course, you want something cute and catchy and fun. So, for example, Mixed Media Girl, the painter in you that's another company that I have. That one, I spent months coming up with the name. And I was researching and, oh, that one's taken and that one's taken, or that doesn't communicate as much. And there are so many paint night names. Obviously, there's paint night, there's paint and sip, there's sip and paint, there's, you know, all kinds of different vino and paint or whatever, you know, all these different names. There was already a lot of competition out there. And so I had to come up with something that not only communicated, but also the domain name was available and it was easily searchable. And then I came up with the Painter and You. And I actually came up with 3 or 4 ideas, and then I surveyed those between friends and family to pick the best one. And I always recommend surveying, unless you know 100% that you have a sure thing. But even then, ask at least a couple people. Ask your spouse or your best friend or your parents or something. Ask at least a couple people and tell them to give you an honest answer. You can ask them, what does this communicate to you? Or, you know, which one do you like best, this or this? Definitely survey it, because it's not going to be something you want to change later. You're going to want to stick with it. And of course, things that are easy to remember. Come up with something easy to remember. If it's like, you know, Johnson's Emporium of Oil Paintage. I don't know. I just made that up on the spot. Well, it is fun. It is going to be difficult for people to spell. It's going to be difficult for people to remember. You know, it's going to be a little difficult, and you're going to have a lot harder time to brand it. You can still totally brand it. Like I said, look at Lift. Hard to spell, hard to remember how to spell, but they were able to market it enough that they got it, and people can now remember it. It's also really short, so that makes it easier as well. If it was the Johnson's Emporium of Oil Paintage, that's really long, and that's going to be really difficult. So don't get too cute to the point where it's a little ridiculous and you're not going to remember it. And the other option is always just to go with your name. You know, Joe Blow's Paint, Joe Blow's Art page, you know, Billy Bob's Art, Billy Bob's Watercolors, Susie's Acrylic Pours. You can always do that. It's a lot of artists do that, you know. Mary Sue's Photography. It is something pretty simple, and usually something like that, you'd have a pretty easy domain name and people already know your name. So if you have a relatively simple name, and you could go even with your first and middle name, you don't have to go with your last name even, because I actually did that before, and then I got divorced, and then I was like, great, now I have a name that I no longer want. And I had to change everything, and that's how Mixed Media Girl was born. So maybe go with a first and a middle name, or even just your first name. That's always an option. All right, guys, I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or need help coming up with a name, let me know. And you can always survey names in the Business of Art Facebook page, the Business of Art Insider group. Feel free to survey us or ask for suggestions for names. We will always help you. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.